Hello, this is Arcades, and welcome to a bit of something I'm built. It's a microcontroller. I'm wanting to put on the workshop, so basically I'm just going to cover it real quick. So yeah, and it's something for this thing which I have been building so far. As you can see, that blue microcontroller up there is the one I'm talking about, and yeah. So, if you like what you watch, enjoy what you see, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment. All that helps out the channel. And yeah, let's get into this. Okay, so what it is we are working on, not really working on, but I am going to be releasing this microcontroller onto the workshop. And what it is it's the microcontroller that allows me to control all the surfaces between the VTOL, between the helicopter mode and the plane mode of this VTOL. So it's a control microcontroller for a VTOL. So in short description, what it is, it takes the data from a exterior source, such as a gyro, processes it, and sends it out to the appropriate surfaces where it needs to go, depending on whether you want to fly in plane mode or in helicopter mode. And it is designed for a twin rotor, and it's initially designed for the large pivot points, but I did adjust it so that it can use a compact pivot, but you lose out on a little bit of functionality with that. But at least it works and should function, because I did some testing and it should be fine. So let's get into the workbench and let's take a closer look at it. Okay, so here in the workbench, and we got the microcontroller right in front of me. I'm going to go over all the features that are listed right here on the side, and then I'm going to go through on what they're looking for, and what you need to get to work hopefully correctly, and hopefully take care of any issues that might come up in the future. So first thing we're going to look at is right over here. We have input source. You can choose between composite input or the data input, which means you can use the composite input for the yaw, roll, and up and down from another source, from like a custom gyro. Say it outputs in that manner for whatever reason. It's there. You can use it, or however you want to do it. If it comes in that way, you can do that, and you can customize each channel for that particular thing, because that's all that's looking for, is the data for that function. Now, you can also, if you don't want to use the composite and you just want to use the data, say you're just using the default gyro here, the inputs are right here. As you can see, you got the yaw, pitch, roll, up, down. I put gyro in parentheses so you know that this is supposed to be after. This controller goes after the gyro, or whatever. So this is the thing that processes all that data out to the appropriate surface. And you can just, as you can see, this one's not hooked up, but you just take all the stuff, hook into the appropriate thing. Like the yaw goes to the yaw, roll to the roll, pitch to pitch, and up, down to up, down. And then you just hook up your VTOL button, which I have this set to 6, and just plug it into there. Now, and that's just looking for your input sources. So if you put data, you just use the green and red, which is why I put in parentheses. Otherwise, if you do composite, that's the purple input. Now, down here it says VTOL switch input. It says data, also says composite. Again, you can either choose to use the standard data input, or you can use the composite input. I did have them combined, but I decided to separate them in case, maybe you have an instrument panel you want to use for this, or something else, and it doesn't flow into here because that's coming from a gyro. So they're on 2 separate inputs, so they won't conflict with each other. Now we have pivot type. This is asking what pivot you're using, because it's trying to understand what data you use. Now, in this build, I'm using the robotic pivot, which gives me data from here, which I am using as a part of the output of the machine. But compact pivots do not have that data. And you can't use a tilt sensor because then the tilt sensor would be affected by the rotation of the aircraft while in plane form. And this is asking for its rotation while it's in plane form. So we can't use that. So the function that smooths out... so the thing that I have with a robotic pivot that helps smooth out the transition, it's skipping that. So, but it will function on the switching and the control on every other purpose. So basically, if you switch over to the compacts for 1x1, you're going to be losing one small feature to smooth out the transition, but outside that, everything else will work just fine. Because that's the only thing I'm using that data for, is to smooth out the transition so it just doesn't throw you all over the place. Okay, now, should you still be using the robotic pivot? The rest of this should apply. Actually, it only really applies to for these next two parts at most. So if you're using, go to switch, it says there's a plane mode collective. You can either use the default collective, so when you switch, it's going to go to this collective value. And that's what the default is. That you can't control that externally in any way. But if you want an external control, and you have a vehicle that's going to have an external control for the planes, or for the plane forms collective, then you put here, external control. So this way you can put it in the value. I believe it should be right here. Yes. This will then allow you to put in a input here to control the collective while it's in plane mode. Now the next up is that's the default collective. That's what you want the value to be. So those two are related. Now prop collective during switch. This is the difference between the robotic pivot and the compact pivot. Because what it is this is setting up the pivot while it's pivoting into place. It lowers the collective so you're not getting jerked around in the aircraft, and it does a horrendous like shoot upwards and then rotates level. This reduces the power of the collective during transition, and then once it's into position, it goes. There are other ways to fix this issue, but that's generally to the aircraft, custom to the aircraft, and I'm not going to worry that here because that would have to be solved on the aircraft that you're building, probably with a custom controller there. There is room left on this controller, so if you want to try to build it into this controller, you can, but I will leave that up to you. And then the helo mode rotator limit. So what it is when you go, this one is using the rotation to create a yaw effect while you're in helicopter mode. So the engine tilts forward, the other engine tilts back, and that creates your yaw motion. So, and if you turn too far, you get, varying degrees of twist. So what I did is I built in a limiter to say how much that's rotating. And basically it takes the input and multiplies it by that value. So you're only getting a max of 13, in this case of 30% of the yaw. Or the 30% of the rotation in either direction for the yaw. And, this is just built to help protect the wing, the rotors from, like, say, hitting something. In the case of this one, I still got to fix it on this build, but, it'll hit the back of the wing. And I've still got to fix that in the overall build. That's coming in the future, but for this case, you may just want to reduce it for whatever reason. But that's what it's there for, to keep the reduction, to keep it from moving too far. Because you could go all the way to one, to where it's facing completely forward and the other one's completely back. That's not going to help you. So it's there, and you can adjust it in this case. And, yeah, and that's pretty much it. And everything just gets hooked up straightforward. I did make it to where all the lefts are, like, on one side. All the rights were on another side, except for this row, but this has to deal with the rotators. And you just plug in what it asks for. Now, if you give me I guess things of note, you do have the left wing and the right wing. That's these surfaces right here for your elevators. As it said, plane mode control surface. And then you have your collectives. This is meant for the prop, and I will readjust that so it says prop, but yeah, it's meant to go there. And, you know, on here on the perspectives. And that will, you know, adjust the collectives as it needs to, and as well as all these others. So give me a second, let me finish hooking this up, and yeah, if there's anything else to note, I will get to it. Okay, I got them all hooked up. The only other thing to stand out is we have these control surfaces, the elevators in the back for plane form, and the rudders in the back for also plane mode. But that was pretty much the only thing that stands out. So, I got everything hooked up. Let's take it for a test flight. Okay, as you can see, I'm here in the plane. I've already gotten in the seat. And we're going to go over some control surface test. So, I am testing the helicopter, you know, pitch. You can see they're reacting. We're going to do the roll. Again, they are reacting. We have the yaw. They're appropriately reacting. And the collective for up and down. You see they react. Now we're going to do the switch. You see they went straight to collective, so they're using the default. We got the pitch on the elevators in the back. We got the yaw in the back. And we have our roll. Now, let's take it out for an actual flight. Because it looked like everything was working. And we're pitching, and I had used the collective to get up off the ground a little bit. Woo! We dodged that! We have a roll. Or our yaw. As you can see, the rudders are not moving. So that's doing what it's supposed to. And let's gain a little bit more altitude. Get the switch. We got our pitch. We got our roll. Yaw. You can see they're moving. And yeah. So, got everything working. It's all working smooth. Okay, so yeah, that should pretty much cover all the features and the functions that are going to have on this thing. It is assuming certain things, and it was built for a twin rotor design with the rotating engines. It had or a rotator to flip them forward and back. That was the intention. It is not designed for a tilt sensor. Unless you find some other way to do it, but that'll be up to you. I will leave that in case you want to customize it. But overall, yeah, it gets the job done. Hopefully you can find a use for it and helps you out for any of your builds. So, yeah. Hope you like what you watch. Hope you enjoyed what you've seen. You know the deal. You know the spiel. And, yeah, this is Arcades, signing out. Have yourself a good day. Whee!